Hi everybody, how are you? Welcome to our last discussion of 2018. Hi to Sunny, AJ and AU already keeping us company in the chat. I'm wearing ridiculous cat ears and my Stark jumper to distract from the fact that I haven't a scrap of makeup on, but sure, it'll be grand, it'll be grand. I do have a brandy coffee and a bit of wine and all that because it's the festive season. We have Clare here. Claire's looking a lot more glamorous.
Hi everyone.
So yes, it is very Christmassy, AJ. We're settling in. So just in case you haven't been around for the last couple of weeks, this is our last stream for 2018. We'll be back on the 6th of January, so in 2 weeks. And then we have 2 weeks left of dance, which I was saying to you, Claire, before we started that, I still can't quite believe. When we started Game of Thrones, I was certain we'd have a wins announcement by now.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what if Winds comes out now in autumn 2018 and we're in the middle of dance? And
however, we do need to try and talk about the trailer at some point for the next season.
Yeah, we do actually. Well, we can talk about it now if you want.
Well, I'm going to have to stop eating these fruit pastels. They're
very Moorish.
Very, very Moorish. Move them away from me.
I have seen the trailers, but I don't know any spoilers.
Well, I don't know if there's more than one trailer. The one I've seen is the ice and the fire across the map.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
And the wolf, half dragon, half wolf thing. I know they are releasing like character profiles at the moment where they're interviewing the main characters and having them look back over the 7 seasons. I have only seen the Jon Snow one, Kit Harington one, just saying how annoyed he was with the Sansa character and how unreasonable he felt the Sansa character was.
Right, okay.
And that's it. Like, I only know the spoilers, well, not a spoiler, but I've only known what HBO have said as well about the first scenes of the first series. But that's it. I don't really know anything else. It's AJ, if you can call it a trailer, it's
I don't really know anything. I think you can pretty confidently guess there'll be at least a couple of pretty big epic battles in the last season. And before I saw the trailer, I did actually watch a Rawrist video where she talks about the trailer and about the amalgamation of ice and fire and how it creates this, like, what looks like obsidian.
Yes.
And then she was like, tinfoil hat. So this isn't coming from me at all. It's coming from Rawrist, but it did make me think about some of the things that we've talked about recently. And what she was saying is that whole, the North remembers, and this has all happened before, and break the wheel, all that kind of thing. And with me talking about this thing about 1,000 and what is it that people can't remember, and this thing about the seasons, and it all seems to sort of kind of fit. And what she was saying is it looks like another wall is being created. That's what the kind of, the meeting of the ice and fire and the obsidian. It looks like another wall is being created across the, and it also, if you look at where it is on the map, it looks like it's around near the God's Eye, the Riverlands, with the neck just above it, which then made me think, is this something, just long story short, what my thoughts are, is this something that happens every 1,000 years? Is there a new
story
wall?
Short?
Sorry.
You froze just when you said long story short.
In terms of what I'm thinking here is a new wall created? Is the Song of Ice and Fire almost like each verse of the Song of Ice and Fire is a new wall, a new kind of setup, a new history, a new scenario, and then that's the thing that gets forgotten when it gets to the next 1,000 years. And so the existing wall is going to come down and create all of this ice. The fire's coming up from the south. It creates this other. This is the Song of Ice and Fire. This is what happens every 1,000 years, and a new wall is created. Maybe that links back to the thing that happened in the neck, and also maybe even they got as far as Dawn at one point, and then that's where the arm of Dawn was. It's just what a 30-second trailer, and the way that your brain can just go whoa.
It just does, in that, yeah. You know. It opens up so much. Like, are they driving the human beings out of their area? Are they actually invading, or are they driving people out of where they don't belong, like the north? Like, will they stop at a certain point? There's so much of our action in the books takes place in the Riverlands. Like, I would argue maybe a disproportionate amount in some books, right?
Yeah,
takes place at the Riverlands. So that, for me, like, that's where it's going to all go down, somewhere near the neck or the Riverlands. Like, it's going to be around there.
And that, I mean, that's already featured in the TV show. I don't know how much and how far off the book story we are at this point when it comes to the final season, but just the concept of ice and fire, that visual representation of the you know, this obsidian being created, and a barrier. You know, there's a barrier there that, you know, fire can't get over one side and ice can't get over the other. The merging like that means that it creates this barrier, and then civilization and history and lore and legends are built around that location. And then by the time another 1,000 years or another long night comes along, everybody's forgotten what they're supposed to have remembered, because the Meisters are controlling everything. They control the information, the knowledge. So yeah, it could be something like that. Whether or not they'll explore those kind of concepts in the TV show, I don't know. Maybe it was just a very swanky way of doing a kind of ice and fire trailer. That's it. You know, when the ice goes over the wolf, very discreetly almost, makes you feel cool like image. It is very cool, and it just makes you think: is that battle at Winterfell going to be bloody and violent and turbulent, or is it just going to be boom, you're gone? Because that's kind of what the impression that you got with the wolf in the trailer, and the lion as well with the fire.
Yeah, like, or is it going to be really anticlimactic and they'll skip Winterfell altogether?
I think I not that I know a great deal about it, but I think there have been filming scenes at Winterfell.
Sure, but not like but that there won't be a battle at Winterfell.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe
like
it will be
because there's a Stark now at Winterfell.
Yeah.
There's built-in magic there that they'll go a different, because they didn't go through Castle Black, right? They went through Eastwatch. Like, the wall broke at Eastwatch, is that right? It broke near the sea.
Yes, it did. It did.
So
yes, it did.
There's every chance that we won't see it going through Winterfell.
Maybe. It depends on how much damage was done.
Yeah, and it depends on how, I guess, how much, like how they spread out those. Actually, we'll be coming to this in John's chapter today. White Army. I want to say hi to Meridian. Davos has found a partner.
I know.
Davos, well
like
done.
Romantic Christmas.
Oh, goodness, more successful than Tinder, Meridian. Excellent. So AJ, you're right. There's an even more in a bigger announcement. And a bigger announcement this week was, of course, George telling fans that he will finish the book, and it's the most definite kind of the most definite response he's given to the Song of Ice and Fire, and most positive one, I guess, because it wasn't, he volunteered it rather than, right, he volunteered that information. I'm kind of on the he's finished wins train, and he's struggling with Dream. That's what I think it is. At least that's what I tell myself. I'm a pessimist at heart, but I do tell myself positive things about George. It was nice to see him. He seemed more positive in that post during the week, which was good. I like when he's positive. I feel good for him when he's positive because he's a very nice man. But yeah, so AJ said we even see fire consume a bunch of house sigils. Spoilers much? Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of that. A lot of that in the books, because that's going to be all part of Dany's breaking the wheel as well. It's going to be very interesting when Dany rocks up at Winterfell. What's going to happen there? All right. This week, we are discussing Dany 9 to the Iron Suitor. We have Jon 11, we have Cersei 1, and we have a Barristan chapter, the Queen's Guard. Lots and lots of religion this week. But next week, we have Tyrion 11 to the Griffin Reborn, and we have another Jon chapter, another Barristan chapter, and Quentin. Not next week, the 6th of January. Anyway, it's all listed down below in the description box, or as John Green would say, the doobly-doo, which always makes me. Anyway, so how did you get on this week, Claire, with the reading?
Really quite interesting. I'm just looking at the comments, actually. I was fascinated by the Iron Suitor, the last chapter this week, the Victorian chapter, and Sonny Frank is asking some really interesting questions about Makoro and the switch in the viewpoint from at the very end of the chapter. I don't know if anyone picked up on that it suddenly changed from Victorian's point of view to somebody else's point of view.
Sure, there's a massive theory built into that, right? The third person, yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely, Sonny, thank you. We'll definitely come back to that question because I'm dying to get to Victorian. I think probably my favorite chapter this week, actually, after it's a toss-up between Jon and Victorian this week. All right, so Dany 9. Dany, I just want to say the most important thing about this chapter, Dany gets her nails painted.
Which means that, I think that there's an equation here. In order for you to be a dragon rider, you have to have fancy painted nails.
We're in the club.
Just saying.
Yeah. Sorry, Tyrion, move over. We are in the club. Yep.
So this is
George likes reverse stamping.
This is the chapter where Dany gets on the dragon and flies away. Wow.
Yeah, it's a great action-packed chapter, but there's so much built into this chapter even before that. So much symbolism. Just even the colors that she chooses. Like she wears yellow, which for me, yellow is quite a sickly color. It's a color associated with sickness often. It can be associated with cheeriness and brightness and all that kind of thing as well. But in terms of like Dany and the pale mare and the disease.
Well, if you think of the yellow whale, then it's yellow. It can be associated with like icky
I
stuff.
think of Shelley's Frankenstein, the yellow eyes of Frankenstein's monster. That it's just like it has negative connotations. It has very positive connotations as well. But either way, Dany chooses to cover that with red. Yeah, and it's like she's almost covering it in blood. And then she kind of takes off this red veil to almost, I think it's Dany's attempt to not use fire and blood to get by all the time. But in the end, it's almost like she has no choice. Like Drogon is bringing her into this fire and blood, whether she likes it or not. We find out in Barristan's chapter that 200 innocent people are killed as a result of what Drogon has done. So it's almost like Dany has no control. It's either eat or be eaten, literally, for Dany, isn't it? It's like, and even that was what was one of the gossipy rumors, actually, that Drogon had taken her off to eat her. So she's in. It doesn't seem like she's in a lot of control really at the moment. It's just very instinctive. She's just going with the flow, really. She thinks an awful lot about Khal Drogo in this chapter. Like more than I think since Clash, maybe she thinks a lot about him. It made me wonder if like is there something, like is there a spiritual connection between Drogon and Drogo? Is there something more than just like
maybe like the spirit goes into what I mean, I know she named him after Drogo. Maybe there is something to it.
I don't know.
There's a connection there.
She also thinks a lot about the prophecy in this chapter, and this maybe has more to do with it than not. She thinks she's had her 3 betrayals.
Yeah, so she thinks that they are Miri Mazdor, Jorah, and Brown Ben Plum. So those are the betrayals, done and dusted. I don't need to worry anymore about somebody betraying me. But I don't think necessarily Jorah is one of the betrayals, and I really don't think Brown Ben Plum. And I think already in the last chapter that we had with Dany last week, it was kind of cleared up that she sort of went, yeah, I can kind of see it from your point of view, the flip-flopping thing. You know, you go where you think survival has the best odds for you. That makes sense. So why she's putting him down as one of these kind of like, you know, a vision and prophesized betrayal is like, really? No, so, there's got to be something much bigger than that. I mean, the fact that you've been told to your face, never trust a sellsword, does that not maybe make you think that perhaps Daario at some point in the future might betray you?
Yeah, and she's even using Daario's language to refer to Barristan as Sir Grandfather and stuff like that. Yeah. Hi, Lady Dreamfire. We hope your daughter gets better real soon. That's a shame that she's sick on her birthday. But you're cooking again today. My goodness. So the prophecy. So it's 1 for love, right? What are the 3 betrayals for?
Isn't it one for love, 1 to?
I can't remember now.
It 1 to bed, 1 to 1 to wed, 1 to bed, or was that something else? Or was it 1 for love, 1 for, was it money? Something to do with
2 for a baby, 3 to get married. I have no idea. Because what I was thinking was, are the betrayals?
I've got Stuart shouting in the background.
Oh yeah, he's usually right.
Shag, marry, kill.
Shag, marry, kill, he's saying.
Because I was thinking that I wonder, do the prophecies, I mean, prophecy can refer to lots of things anyway, especially with Dany, but I wonder, do the prophecies specifically refer to her marriages? That she's betrayed, like, and in Macbeth, the prophecies happen in reverse.
Right, okay.
So whatever is prophesied last happens first.
Right.
So I think for love is last, so that could be Khal Drogo, right? That could be first.
Oh, here we go, AJ. 3 fires you must light. 1 for life, 1 for death, 1 to love. 3 mounts you must ride, 1 to bed, 1 to dread, and 1 to love.
It's for marriages, right?
3 treasons you will know. Yeah. 1's for blood, 1's for gold, and 1's for love. So if this is Shakespearean, then love would be the first thing.
And it's last in each of the 3 parts of the prophecies. So that's Khal Drogo.
Thanks, AJ.
Thank you so much, AJ. So gold could be his star, and she dreaded him. And for death, you know, for all the deaths that she was trying to stop. So there could be that. And then it's the next marriage that I'm most interested in because of Victarion's chapter as well. Just what he's at the end of Victarion's chapter. It's just something that, because she thinks of Khal Drogo so much here, and I feel like this is the last time she's going to see his Dar alive as well. Like this, she's leaving her marriage basically behind. I don't know why. I just started thinking the prophecies, I think, are connected to who she's marrying. Or whatever relationship she's having. And and each word in the prophecy represents a different person. Yeah, you're absolutely right, AJ. That could be it as well. I think with Dany, you'd be able to read loads of things into Dany's. But in Macbeth, which George frequently references when he's talking especially about Cersei's prophecy, but also Dany's prophecy, they actually happen in reverse, especially the most important set of prophecies that he gets about Macduff and Burnham Wood and all that. They happen in reverse. So it's just something that I was thinking about this week. But yeah, I guess the first thing we should talk about is who's the poisoner, poison locusts.
Well, this is very strange because in Barristan's chapter, they talk about, well, the shave pate says, yeah, it was his star and it was the confectioner. You know, you need to go and speak to the, well, Barristan thinks I'll go and speak to the confectioner, but he also says, I need to go and speak to, it was somebody really strange. And it was like, hang on, I thought you were going to check this out with the confectioner. Grey Worm. He says he needs to go and speak to Grey Worm. So I don't know what. I don't think necessarily it was his star. I think Shave Pate can't be trusted. He's in control of the Brazen Beasts, and I don't think the Brazen Beasts can be trusted. They were the ones that kind of surrounded Strong Belwas, and that, you know, just like Barristan says, just the fact that they're always in different masks and you don't know who's who, and you know, I think the Brazen Beast potentially could be the Sons of the Harpy.
Yeah, I mean, I did find it a little bit ironic. I know we're touching on the Barristan chapter. I did find it a bit ironic that he said that stuff about masks, thinking about himself later then being disguised. Just it was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, our favorite little potential betrayer who would have access, maybe, in Missandei. I don't know. Listen, I think it could be everyone.
Yeah.
It could, you know, like it could be several people are going to be poisoning this. You know, that's a kind of a trope as well. When a murder happens, often you have more than one murderer with separate plans. So there's every chance that there's a number of people trying to get at her from all angles. Do you think she'll go back to Meereen? Do you think we'll ever see Dany and Meereen again?
Yes. I think she might feel that she needs to go. I think there's something in what, again, this chapter is very much tied to the Barristan chapter, but I think there is something in what Missandei said, which is she won't, you know, she won't leave without us, will she? And I think maybe she'll leave without you, Missandei, but she'll want to go back for her other two dragons.
Yeah, unless somebody frees them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But then if I was those two dragons, I'd never go near Dany again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure. Like when you get to the Barristan chapter, there doesn't seem to be much to bring her back to Meereen. Like literally everybody is leaving or dying or whatever, you know. It feels like it's a city on its knees.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It wouldn't. I think story-wise, probably, yeah, you know, just leave it as it is and progress forward. But maybe that's part of her, you know, to move forward, you must go back. Sort out the crap that you potentially, you know, set up in Meereen. Everyone is, that is just, I wouldn't be able to deal with the burden of that responsibility that everybody had en masse moved from Astapor. These starving, sick people turned up, and just the human tragedy of the you know, I know she can't do anything about it. She can't do anything about it, but she caused that situation, and I think she is the Pale Mare. In fact, there's a few people that could be the Pale Mare.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know. I mean, I think possibly she could go back.
I mean, she'd have maybe even more so, maybe more than just for the dragons. She has to go back for the Unsullied.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not convinced. She may go back and have Drogon eat his dar, because he's very quick to want the dragon killed.
Drogon might be part of the battle, because there's still this knot of you've got the Yunkai there. There's this very fragile piece in the balance, but then you've got the Volantines heading up to Marine. Basically, everyone's like, oh, that dragon girl has just left Marine. Let's pile in there. There's plenty of gold and jewels and money, and it's ripe for the taking. Let's all just
everybody go in, and then George, in one quick POV chapter in Winds, can have Dany just destroy them, and then let's move on.
Yeah,
because I'm kind of tired of the Myronese knot.
But it could be that's how it could all be. Everybody's gathering in one place because Dany's not there, so maybe she will return just to sort that out.
AJ says, didn't Dany get her hair burnt off again? She was probably like, damn, just got my nails done, but now my hair's gone. Yeah, I'd pick my nails over my hair. No,
it's like doing a really elaborate Brittany, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very symbolic, Dany losing her hair like that as well.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of symbolism, I thought, in the fights in the pits. On the surface, you're led to be just this uncomfortable feeling. Dany having these throbbing headaches. Again, I don't know whether that's a kind of hormonal thing, that she's having these pounding headaches, and you can just hear like the drums and the fighting going on in the fighting pits, which she's just not happy about whatsoever.
No.
All of this makes her feel uncomfortable. But while she's watching the fights, there's a fight where someone gets the head ripped off and their heart ripped out, and the other person eats the heart. It's like I suppose she's looking at this kind of symbolic montage of things that's like significant things that have happened in her life. So to me, that was like Dany and Rhaego, and that visual that you get in the TV show where she's eating the heart. The young boy that was beheaded, to me, that's a bit like Viserys was kind of beheaded. He's made a golden crown. And then there was the boar versus the girl, the female fighter that got gutted by the boar. And that is a little bit like the Baratheons versus Dany. She thinks, the Dany versus the usurper.
Yeah, we should
so
talk about
there's
that
lots
one,
of symbolism.
because that's the worst one as well, because they can't find somebody to fight a woman, so they send in a boar.
Yeah.
And, she's very brave, this woman fighting this boar, but Barston, notices that she's making all sorts of mistakes. Clearly not able to read a boar that well. The other thing about that is, what's more disturbing is when Drogon comes along and begins eating the boar and the woman, and Dany notices that you can't really tell the difference between the two bodies. And then there's this horrifying scene when she gets up close to Drogon. She sees bones in his teeth.
Yeah.
Which, he must be huge at this stage. Huge. But what is this telling us about what is Dany going to bring to Westeros if she's got these especially this man-eating dragon with her? I feel like Drogon can't, I don't know.
Can't be controlled.
He can't be controlled, and I feel like he can't last that long. Like, I know it's not unusual for Targaryens to feed bodies to dragons, okay? That's not unusual. It just seems that she doesn't have control over him, right? She doesn't... It feels like this is... it feels a bit like a fluke that she gets control of him in this situation at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Dany is going to sacrifice a lot of herself to appease Drogon. And that's where we're going to see evil Dany come out. Bad dental hygiene indeed, yeah. That's right, AJ, the Dany's version of the dwarf play at the Purple Wedding. Yeah, that's really sick as well. They're going to unleash lions on Penny and Tyrion. It's really sick. And it's like Hisdar knows that Dany won't like this, and yet he's still willing to do it. Like, it's almost like Drogon knows what Hisdar has in mind.
Yeah.
The other thing with the locusts...
But I think he's feeding from her. There is an emotional connection, isn't there? Yeah. So he's probably just like, he's feeding off her fear.
But do you think him eating the boar and the woman, like is this him eating Targaryen and Baratheon without distinguishing? Like, is this foreshadowing him eating Aegon, for instance? If that happens,
I think he's capable of eating a human. I'm not sure he would eat. I don't think he'd be able to eat a Targaryen.
Maybe a Blackfire.
Not on a Sunday, no.
I don't know. It's just there was something so visceral about that scene, and it was really disturbing. The other thing with the locusts, though, this is a snack that Dany has frequently eaten, especially in dance. She eats locusts and figs and all that kind of thing. But the only thing that turns her off is the fact that they're spicy, which again might be a sign that she's got a dicky tummy, she's pregnant. Yeah. Like, she even, at the beginning of this chapter, she even thinks about all she wants to do is kind of lie back and dream. Like, there's almost an instinct to nest at the beginning.
She's trying, and I mean the fights are going to make her feel uncomfortable, but she just wants to get out of there, doesn't she? The noise, she's feeling headachy. She's just like, I just want to go, and Hisdar's urging her to stay, which does make it seem as though, I don't know what his intentions were really, but I'm sure they weren't good. Then Drogon, just before Drogon appears, she wants to leave. She's had enough. And then she sees Drogon, and she does seem to kind of take some sort of command. Again, it's that sort of, I suppose, what it was like when it was the funeral pyre and with the dragon eggs. She just goes with it. She just kind of follows this instinctive kind of urge, and she shouts at Drogon, "No, not me! Don't you know me?" So maybe there is that, like, oh, it doesn't, you're human. It doesn't, I'll eat a boar, I'll eat a human, I'll eat what? And she's like, no, it's me. I'm
she does say Targaryen. If she runs, he'll kill her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, dragons kill Targaryens all the time. So it's not like.
Yeah, that's true. Happen. Yeah, so, that's true. She needs to she knows that she needs to take command of that situation. Otherwise, he will just burn her.
I mean, we'll get into that in Fire and Blood, right? So we'll be doing Fire and Blood from February, folks, by the way. But yeah, we'll get into that a little bit, just because dragons are just so baffling. They're very close to human beings, I guess, in that they're capable of kinslaying, and they're capable of all sorts of horrible crimes, right? Lady Dreamfire, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. Happy Christmas to you as well. Hey Lauren, how are you? Yeah, so Dany, anything else for this Dany chapter?
Yes. Why does Daenerys feel that she's got some sort of a fairly strong sense of loyalty to Illyrio?
Yes, that's right, Jess. She doesn't want to take Pentos.
Yeah, she's like, I can't possibly do that, because what if it upsets Illyrio? And it's like,
who else has given her as much as Illyrio?
She feels that she owes him a huge debt. So I think that may come into something later on down the line. Maybe she gets so far in a journey and then she gets stopped somehow or manipulated very easily. because she feels that she owes him a debt. I wouldn't have thought there'd be anybody else really in Dany's life so far that she feels she really owes anything to.
But she's right. He gave her
is.
Khal Drogo and he gave her dragons.
So that's. I mean,
he didn't know what he was giving her.
No, probably not. But that's something I think to bear in mind for later on, though. That there may be a situation between Daenerys and Illyrio where she kind of kowtows to him because she feels some sense of debt of gratitude or a debt to be paid or whatever.
By the way, the other thing in this is Jiri and what's the other girl's name? The other Khal?
Oh, Iri and Jiqui.
Iri and Jiqui. Jiri. Yeah. I just put them together as Jiri. Jiri. And they were totally fine with the guy eating the human heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Khalasar is strong, I guess. Right. Is that it for Dany then?
It is, yeah.
It's more of an action-packed one. We'll end with Dany, of course, before the epilogue. And then we are on to John. What is it? John 11. John 11. And I love this chapter so much. Love this chapter. I don't even know where to start.
Well, let's start with Tormund.
Let's start with Tormund. I'm going to pour some wine.
Tell me what you think. He's given many titles. One of them is Speaker to Gods, which just made me think, can Tormund speak to the old gods? If he does, how? And does he have a bigger connection to that old northern magic that we know so well?
Well, it's funny you should say that because of the 5 chapters that we have this week. 3 of them involve people who are either praying for guidance or expected to pray for guidance or trying to find answers outside of themselves. And 2 of them, Jon and Dany, are not. Yeah. They're trying to find answers within. And if you think of Targaryens, like most people see Targaryens as being godlike. So Tormund is having a very frank, very raw conversation with Jon here, especially about his children, to the point where does Tormund, I don't feel like Tormund talks like this to everybody.
Yeah, he's very genuine and honest, isn't he?
So that might be a nod towards Jon's Targness. Is Tormund, I know everybody hates this, is Tormund using glamours? He gives his chains to Jon.
Oh, yeah.
And then he says, there's one chain I won't give you. It's basically on his cock. And he says, if I give you that, Snow, it'll be like giving you a torque, like I've. But I think he's telling the truth. I think he's holding back something.
Maybe.
It was just the way, and Jon thinks, oh, I shouldn't really be taken, like we shouldn't melt down this stuff. This is like wildling heritage. And they spend long enough on it, I think, for it to have there's potential there for George to troll us, or for there to be
so maybe one of the wildlings is, one of the prominent wildlings is glamoured, but perhaps not the one that we think it is.
Or Tormund isn't Tormund.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, possibly.
Because that's the theory, isn't it, that he's Hightower? So
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it just made me wonder. He's using a cock ring as a glamour, clearly. So that's what's happening with Tormund. The other thing with Tormund is the description of the whiting of his sun. So this opens up all sorts of, oh my God, confusion, because the show is very different. So It sounds like whites don't have to be in the vicinity for you to be whited. You just have to be dead. Because he says that his son, before they even knew he was dead, he opened his eyes and they were blue.
Right. Okay. So a little bit like the walkers on The Walking Dead, where anyone can die. You don't have to be bitten by a zombie. Yeah. It's some sort of genetic mutation or something like that, where if you die of whatever cause, you automatically are turned into a zombie.
It means that I don't know what it means. It means that maybe the show got some things right early on. Because it just sounds like it doesn't, like, you can just die from, you don't have to be killed, or like you can just be dead north of the wall and wake up. If you know what I mean. It's very it was a very confusing thing. It sounded like he was with them. Maybe they were all sleeping or whatever, but there's no description of whites being around or anything like that. So this is really powerful magic.
Well, yes, I think there's a lot of reference to ice magic in this chapter. Like probably maybe more than we've ever had in one place, or at least allusions to it. So again, this must have been the 10th time that the wall has been described, and the ice in the wall has been the description of it, of the light and the reflections and the rainbow light, which a long time ago made me think, on this reread, made me think this is something to do with the religion of the Seven. And right here in this chapter, the wall is described as being as bright as a Septon's crystal with frozen rainbows. So I think the wall is made from ice magic, or some form of, what we were saying before about the trailer. I think that, I think that there's the ice magic is prevalent there in terms of the construction of the wall. I think it's got something. I think there's some connection there with the Seven, the faith of the Seven, whether it's one religion hiding another one or manufacturing another one just to make it more palatable, and that you're all worshipping something that you think you're worshipping, but actually it's not. You're worshipping something else. And then
I think there's definitely something there. Yeah, I think you're right.
There's that other connection. When John sees Ghost and he emerges with Val and he says they look like they belong together. And I just think that's a dead obvious, like, ice magic connection between Val, the wildling princess. I think she is as much like an ice priestess as Melisandre is a fire priestess. And then there's that, when I said there's a few people that could be the pale mare, Val is actually riding a pale mare, a sick pale mare, and she's also leading a host of sick wildlings, sick and starving wildlings to the wall as well.
Yeah, so John is pretty shocked by that in particular, isn't he?
Yeah. So maybe Val is the pale mare and she's bringing the sickness to the wall from that side of things.
Somebody's saying that they're not getting a good feed. AJ, can you see us okay? Or are we stalling or anything like that? Sorry, Lady Dreamfire. It's okay. Okay, thanks, AJ. Maybe close the window and come back to us, potentially. Yeah, just to go back to the wall there, because he makes an interesting comment that, on days like this, there's no denying that of what the wall is. It's ice. And that made me think, ice. ice the sword that the Starks had, that has to be connected. That name has to be connected in some way to ice magic, right? Into the wall. And there's that kind of says that to me, that it says that the same magic is belongs in both of them, right?
And if you think of the opposite number of that, that's got to be the fiery sword of R'hllor, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, and the destruction of ice, whatever process was used, it also potentially destroyed whatever magical property. I don't think it has that magical property now. Whatever ice was, it's been parted. It's not supposed to be parted, right? Just in the last week, we had that line, what fire brings together, let nobody pull apart. Like, to do that is to break the magical bonds that keep it together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like breaking guest right, like whatever it is, like kinslaying, whatever pacts you're breaking. If you do that with these magical instruments as well, yeah, sorry guys, maybe reducing the quality might help, potentially. Hopefully we're okay. I have to figure out how to reduce the quality here as well. I need to learn more about Google Hangouts. Yeah, and the Val stuff, I mean, this is where we get the Jon and Val are twins theory. This part in particular with the direwolf. He does look at her lovingly, doesn't he? He does really fancy her. And it's kind of sweet as well, like, because she seems to be receptive towards him, but she's so strong. I love Val. I'd love a Val POV, but that means that she'd die, so I don't want a Val POV. So the other thing that he mentions with all of the wildlings, they were herding goats and sheep and all that kind of thing, but they're all gone now. They've basically eaten everything. But the only thing they're not eating are their mammoths, because they couldn't. Which I don't really understand, because didn't human beings like help hunt mammoths to extinction as well as like...
Yeah, and you'd think if they can't get them through the wall, then at least eat them. Well,
or is this just a handy way of setting up ice, like whited mammoths?
Yeah, maybe.
Be terrifying later.
Yeah.
Because there's also a reference to elephants in Dany's chapter. So we might see elephants, especially if she starts bringing Eastern armies. So we could see elephants and mammoths potentially. Or maybe he's just leaving that open just to tease us.
It could be.
So, but it would be pretty cool. Just to give HBO something more challenging. I mean, it's certainly something that HBO could do. We definitely have mammoths in the show. Of course, the big thing then with Val in this chapter is her discussion of grayscale with Shireen and Monster and all that kind of thing. What do you think this is all about?
Well, I think this is just a prophecy that Shireen is a dead girl. She is going to die. And that Val has some sort of prophetic magic. There's something about Mel versus Val in my mind that is just an epic witchy showdown at the wall, and I'd love for that to happen. So in my mind, I think that Val has a lot of the magical properties that Mel has, but from an ice magic perspective, of which we know little of. We know that the fiery god of R'hllor and the Red Priestess can somehow see the future in her flames. She can resurrect people. We've seen some of the power of fire magic and blood magic actually, but we haven't really seen a great deal of what the magical properties of ice magic are, and I think Val might imbue some of them. And I think that potentially could be, there's some form of old magic prophecy there that's that, you know, this immediate reaction that she has to Shireen being a dead girl.
Okay, so I have got tinfoil.
Well, there is tinfoil already on this about Val and Grayscale, but let's see. Go on.
Well, this is the same chapter going back. This literally just jumped into my head, so it's probably the brandy coffee talking. Just FYI. But this is the same chapter that we find out that whites don't need to be around for you to just wake up whited, basically.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, could there be a dormant gene in like the human species that is related to grayscale, or that your like grayscale can be triggered if you come into contact with somebody with grayscale? Could that be connected with whiting? Is that why the wildlings have such a fear of it? Is there some connection there? I didn't work it out in my head first.
Could be.
I don't know. It's just, it's interesting that it is the same chapter that we find out, because I don't think we knew that before this chapter. I don't think we had like evidence of people.
Yeah, how does it happen? How do they transform into?
Yeah, like
into
usually there's an attack of some sort or murder. This is the first time that we've seen somebody just die and then wake up whited. So, and just this thing about grayscale, there's no real, there doesn't seem to be any real reason for them to feel like this. It just seems that like she's really insistent on John taking Monster away from the from Shireen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something. Yeah. Any answers on a postcard, please? The wildlings, first men fear all things.
There's the existing tinfoil, by the way, around Val and Grayscale is that Val and Dalla were Craster's daughters, but they got Grayscale, so he kind of chained them up or locked them up somewhere, and they ended up escaping, but like overcoming this condition. I don't know. I've read some really strange tinfoil detail sort of stories of like, really, could that? But yeah, there's definitely something there. Just given a reaction, I don't think it's just one of those like, oh, the wildlings feel uncomfortable around it. I think she could see a dead girl. Yeah. So
you don't think it's just a wildling fear in general? You think it's heightened in Val?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think she's got some kind of magical abilities similar to Mel, but from the ice perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
AJ says possibly maybe Patchface is somehow connected. Yeah, Patchface makes an interesting prophecy in this chapter as well, I guess related to John, right?
Yeah.
John knows he's on thin ice, excuse the pun here. Like he knows by the end of this chapter, I'm pushing it. Like he feels his sword hand twitching, and he knows he's in trouble.
It's like you're reading this chapter and there's an alarm going off in the background that's saying treachery imminent, treachery imminent, treachery imminent.
So did you read this chapter? Had you read this book knowing John was going to die? Or did you come to, because I knew he was going to die, so
no, I had no idea that this was happening, but it didn't, and I didn't. There is a build up to it. There's definitely a build up to it. I suppose I wasn't surprised when it happened because of the build up to it. But it's still so
obvious in hindsight.
It is obvious, yeah, but it's still right. Oh my God, when it happens.
But you can see their point. He's counting on these guys to break decades of habit and vows based on what he has seen, rather than, you know, like he hasn't shown enough, I think.
Well, that was my question. My big question for this chapter is, does Jon make a good case or a strong enough case for what he's doing here? And he does nothing more than basically say to the men who have been harboring these feelings for centuries about this old enemy, and he's basically turning round, he's a boy, and saying to the men, just trust me, just trust me. I've got a feeling that it's all going to be, and he could actually make a very strong case. There's a lot of mounting pressure there just because of the numbers, like how, and they're sick as well. How are we going to feed these people? And his answer around, like, well, you know, we'll just say, I mean, he's going to get this money from the Iron Bank, so that's how he's going to do it. But he's not being honest with them. He's saying that, you know, we'll sell the trinkets from the wildlings. But he could make a very strong and pretty easy, obvious case about the living and the dead. All the stuff that you're talking about here, it's a little bit like how we take the piss out of the rest of the realm for running around and being consumed by the Game of Thrones, when we know that it's about the living and the dead. Where have you, wake up? Where have you all been? This is what it's about. So we need the numbers to man the wall, to give us at least some sort of a fighting chance when the long night comes and when they descend on the wall. You know, this is what it is that we're here for. Yeah, it doesn't seem traditional, but what other solutions have you got? You know, he could make a stronger case than all I can see here all the way through this chapter is him just saying, trust me, just trust me.
I think his biggest mistake is isolating himself. And he admits that in this chapter, that he has no friends. And that's the biggest problem. He has no one, like, this isn't the way it has to be. Like, Mormont never did this. Mormont didn't isolate himself to the extent that he had no one to defend him at meals or in the yard or whatever. Like, Jon has isolated himself to such a degree that there's no one to go, oh no, Jon knows exactly what he's doing, and this is why, and this is why. They're all kind of left in the dark and just expected to trust him. I think, you know, as great as it is for us to have Sam go to Old Town, it was a massive mistake for Jon.
He hasn't got anyone that he trusts to tell him, yes, you're doing the right thing, stick at it, persevere, just keep talking to them about the vows and saying, you know, we're here to shield the realms of men, you know, it's the living and the dead, and that he hasn't got anybody. So he doubts himself constantly. He's thinking, am I doing the right thing? Letting the wildlings through. He already knows that the men don't like it, and he understands why. And he's not saying anything whatsoever to convince the Night's Watch that what's happening here is betrayal. So why wouldn't they just want to take him out? He's ruining the order, this ancient order. So, you know, why wouldn't they just go, this is, you know, enough, no more of it now.
Yeah. Just for all those Val and Jon are twins, diehard theory fans out there, there is a line in here that kind of aligns Val with Lyanna, where Jon thinks that she looked like she'd been born on horseback, and I believe the same description was used, or pretty much close to the same description was used for Lyanna. So could be, I don't know, but I don't know. Could be, I guess. But yeah, that's all I have for Jon. Do you have anything else for Jon?
No.
Okay. This is going to be a quick one, I feel, Cersei.
Yes.
It's a bit of a filler chapter, or just kind of, oh, do you remember what happened? Do you remember Cersei?
Well, I think this is a check-in of like, has Cersei actually become pious, or is she just pretending? So this is a chapter that reveals, from Cersei's point of view, that it's all complete horse shit. She would push those Septons down the stairs quicker than you could blink if she thought she could get away with it. And she's only confessing to what she feels she absolutely has to, and she'll give lots of reasons of why it happened, and yeah, but this was the reason, and I did this, but I did not, and I'm sorry, and I can, you know, there's a reason for it. So, you know, yeah.
I think you're totally right, and I think it's very interesting that in this chapter we also get reference to 3 other characters who may also be doing the same kind of thing. Actually, 4 really. Loras Tyrell, because we know that's all horseshit, right? What's going on? The fact that he's half dead and all that has to be horseshit. High Sparrow, potentially. Acting maybe out of character. He isn't who he says he is or whatever. She mentions Arthur Dane. She thinks a bit about Arthur Dane. And she talks about Brienne. She thinks about Brienne. And of course, we've just had, we know, we don't know what Brienne is thinking, right? It's like, that's the whole thing. It's like, oh yeah, Brienne has rode off with Jaime, and we have no idea what's going on with her. There is this kind of duplicity as a theme in this chapter. That's and we also get Marcella, of course, the whole Marcella debacle. So is she Marcella? Is she not Marcella? What's going on there? And of course Qyburn. There's so much, like, there's so, I guess he had to put Cersei into this book, otherwise we have no POVs in King's Landing. It didn't hit me until we got to Cersei. It's like, shit, we haven't been back to King's Landing at all. Like, it's
but
the
you
center
know,
of power.
while all of this has been going on for Cersei, the governance of the realm seems to be moving more and more and more into a Tyrell direction. So Marjorie's out already. She's safe. She's back with Tommen. It seems like what's he called? Mace Tyrell seemed to have got some of his bannermen onto the small council, and there's like a little caucus of them now that are basically ruling the realm. Kevin seems fine with that. And all Cersei seems to be worried about is, this is all Tyrion's fault. When is Jaime going to come and save me? Why don't they believe what my ridiculous excuses are for why I've been an absolute bitch? She's not paying attention to the fact that, well, I'm just wondering, is all this happening to Cersei just like, we need a way in order for us to get real grip on the power of the Iron Throne and actually rule it in a way, you know, we get Marjorie on the throne, and then that so, you know, is there something, are the Tyrells playing a bit of a long game here? But at some point somebody said, look, we just need to get Cersei out of the way in order for us to really move in on this. We've got to get her out of the way. So how do we do that?
Is it that, or is it that there is maybe subconsciously in Westeros an active move across the kingdom to finally break down what the Targaryens set up, what Aegon set up, by unifying Westeros?
Maybe.
Because it seems so fractured now, right? Like, I didn't even miss the Iron Throne in this book so far. I haven't even thought about the Iron Throne and who's going to get it, because that, like you said, it's like all the attention is everywhere else. It's in the north, it's in the Riverlands, it's in Dorne, it's in, you know, where, like the west, the east, like all of these places had their own kings at one time.
Yeah.
So it seems to be like everybody might be, maybe the Tyrells are trying to get hold of the Iron Throne. I don't know if anyone is playing that game apart from maybe Littlefinger and Cersei. Like, it feels like everybody else is trying to look after their patch because winter's coming. And, you know, we gave the Targaryens a go. That didn't work out well. We definitely don't like the Lannisters and the Baratheons. That didn't really work out well. Let's just, you know, let's just keep looking after our own patch. I feel like it seems, yeah, like AJ said, it seems to point out how insignificant the Iron Throne is at this point. That King's Landing isn't necessarily where it's at. I mean, there's 500,000 people there, sure, but you've got Aegon taking Storm's End. We find that out like pretty in the next few chapters. We'll find out that you know, Aegon has taken Storm's End. The Tyrells may have Dragonstone.
Yeah.
So it feels like
Jamie has ran off with. So this is Kevin telling her this news. Finally, after a confession, she gets some kind of I don't know. They go a bit easier on her, so they let her sleep because, oh my God, that I think if anything's going to break Cersei, it seems like the sleep deprivation.
Well, that's the thing.
Nothing else worked really, did it? But the sleep deprivation was the thing that cracked her a little bit in the end. But she's told by Kevin, who is now the Lord Regent, by the way, so he's completely actually kowtowed to the Tyrells, really, because this is all being channeled through Marjorie from their perspective, and she's the queen. He's just, you know, he's the Lord Regent, but she's almost like she's in waiting for that power. But he tells Cersei that Tommen's fine, that Jamie has disappeared off with some woman who can only be Lady Brienne from the description, and that there are sellswords in the stepstones, and that Cersei must atone by doing a walk of shame, which of course she just doesn't want to even tolerate. She doesn't want to entertain the concept of that at all.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you a question actually.
Go
about
on,
Kevin.
Go on.
Why does he forgive her for Lancel?
I think it was his idea for the walk of shame. That's what my question was. I think my question is the answer. Is my answer for you?
Because the High Septon doesn't really seem that bothered, does he? I don't think
he wants her just dead.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think he forgives her because his idea is the walk of. That's a Lannister. That happened in the Lannister past. Like they make Kevin's father's paramour do a walk of shame. So I think he went to the High Septon and said, or High Sparrow and said,
make her do it, bring her down a peg or two.
Yeah,
she needs to get her pride sorted out.
Would this help get her back? But like his skin crawls when when she goes to give him a hug. And by the way, she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But literally he's like, ugh. She can feel his hands go up.
Well,
he can't stand her at all.
Hi, Connie, by the way. Connie's just arrived.
Hi, Connie. How are you?
I think, well, she basically, when he goes to see her and she's finally allowed a visitor, she goes through like what she's done, and she talks about Lancel. And she says, forgive me, forgive me, uncle. And I just thought it was surprising that he kind of said, yes, you're forgiven, Cersei, you're forgiven. And it's like, really? She manipulated your son that much that, you know, I mean, the reaction that Lancel had, I always get those two mixed up, was talk about a complete 180. You know, he can, you know, to become like so holy and pious and just, you know, absolutely torturing himself over the sin and the transgression and the, you know, and she's just like, oh, I was lonely. What else did you expect me to do?
But it's not, that's not what leads Lancel to break down. It's the regicide.
Yeah.
That's what, that's what's killing Lancel. Like he looks like an old man now.
So the charge is against her because actually, as it stands at the moment, what she's confessed to isn't a criminal offence, I suppose. You know, it's not, this isn't, she didn't say that she cheated on Robert while he was alive. You know, these are all kind of mishaps and transgressions because she was lonely because of her dear husband's death. So actually, she's confessing to things that, all right, you might be a bit of a shitty person, but you haven't done anything that's like illegal as such, against the law. But these charges that are now levied against her require some evidence or some sort of trial or something. What's thrown at her is her involvement in Robert's death. So clearly that's come directly from Lancel. Conspiring against Marjorie, again, of more evidence of the Tyrells' ascent to power being quite a steep curve that's happening right now, and that her children are bastards. So the incest there. That's
no, there's one more very important one, probably the most important one. Deicide.
Oh,
she's
yes.
Accused of killing God's instrument on Earth.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the big one. Yeah. Because she killed the High Septon. Did she actually do that?
Well, she apparently gave the order, didn't she?
Right,
She wasn't by her hands as such, but that's a big badge of honor, isn't it? I've killed a god.
Regicide, deicide. I mean... And what's the killing your spouse? What's the side for that? Barathicide. Yeah. I have no idea what that was. Yeah, Connie, you're totally right. Kevin is totally disgusted with Cersei. I think the other reason why Kevin has to forgive her, if any of this is true, the whole family, like the whole realm, will turn on them.
Yeah,
like they're all dead. Like there's like, if any of this is true, Jaime is screwed. Everybody, like all of the Lannisters in the Riverlands are screwed. There isn't, like, if it's that bad, like there's no way you're going to get rid of that taint. Like this is something that'll follow you around. Regicide is no joke. Deicide is no joke. So
Cersei the Godslayer.
The Godslayer, yeah. Which is kind of like, it's so ironic that the least spiritual religion, this is the first time we've heard of deicide.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. The other thing I want to talk to you about, the one thing she's super concerned about, even more than Marcella in this chapter, is how can she make a space on the King's Guard? And when she hears the news about Marcella, this is actually good news for Cersei. Because with Oakheart dead, now she has a space for, give him the White Cloak, give Qyburn the White Cloak.
He will know what to do.
Yeah, he will know what to do, possibly because he helped set this up with Oakheart, right? Maybe not with Oakheart, but this whole thing he's helped set up potentially.
Yeah.
With the Dornish, with somebody down there, right?
Yeah.
So this is working out nicely for Qyburn. Especially since he hasn't come to see her, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of red flags. The other thing with the sleep deprivation, I guess they're trying to get her, because Kevin kind of talks as if they're being watched and listened to.
Yeah.
So I guess they're trying to get her to speak in her sleep almost. To like confess, so that they'll hear her say, because she does think about sleeping with Jaime, and this could be stuff that she's saying out loud, like she thinks, By the way, did we already know this? I think maybe Jamie already told us that he took, like, he slept with her the morning of the wedding. But I thought Jamie said it was the wedding night. Maybe it was both.
Probably
I don't know
both.
if she's misremembering that. I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was both.
Could be, yeah. She definitely lost her virginity to Jamie.
Yeah.
On the wedding day. Yeah. So then, okay. Lauren says, poor Kevin Lannister. That dude was trying so hard to sort all that shit out. Yeah. Another hint to her marrying Euron. Oh my God. Oh my God, AJ. What a depressing wedding. Oh my God. I think you get an invite to Ramsay and Jane's wedding, to be honest. AJ says Qyburn is just loving it down there in the dungeons, torturing people to death. Did you see what happened to Felice in the character descriptions at the end of the book? I don't want to read it.
Oh.
I remember something, but I can't. It's been a while, AJ.
She couldn't feed herself or something. Yeah, she can't use her arms anymore. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
So horrible. Qyburn is dangerous. Dangerous. And everybody did a runner, of course. Nobody's sticking around. The one thing I want to say about the High Sparrow and just all of this, the duplicity, the theme of duplicity, and maybe potentially people not revealing their true intent and all that kind of thing. Because it comes up in Barristan's chapter as well, that Barristan can kind of hide in plain sight once the white cloak is off. Yeah. And this is something that people throw at theories of, you know, this guy can't be so-and-so because people would recognize him. Barristan is proof of that not being true. People, and actually even glamoring in and of itself only works if people see what they want to see. And the same could be true of the High Sparrow. There's every chance that Cersei knows this guy or should know this guy, but doesn't. I don't know, potentially a Rain. I mean, she wouldn't know a Rain, but somebody else, a Reed. I don't think it is Helen Reed, but like there's every chance that this is somebody. It seems so personal, the vendetta. I feel like it doesn't seem, because she does feed him the bullshit that you'd expect someone in his position to swallow. Oh, the crone came to me in a dream, blah blah blah, and he's not having any of it. So yeah. AJ says then at the end dies screaming in the royal dungeons, the black cells. Yeah, poor Felice. But yeah, that's it for Cersei. Yeah. Our next chapter is it next week? No, it's not. It's at the end of, it's not next week at all. It's our last week. We'll get Cersei 2. What a chapter. All right, so Barristan, the Queen's Guard. Barristan, there's a very interesting theme between him and Victarion about they diminish their own gods. That there seems to be a limit to the omniscience and omnipresence of their gods, the omnipotence of their gods. There seems to be a limit, like a geographical limit.
Right.
7 and to the, I guess maybe our notion of religion is different now. I guess it is probably more Middle Ages in the sense that you really need instruments of your god around for it to be like Victarion. He really wants Aeron there for the drowned god to have any effect almost. And Barristan kind of gives that sense here. He thinks he's probably too far from the 7 for him to be protected by the 7.
So there's some kind of proximity thing to your god.
This is why R'hllor is so strong, because he's got very strong, capable, willing missionaries that are moving throughout Essos and Westeros, right? More so than any other god. That it feels like a religion is very much limited to the geography or the instruments of the religion that are around potentially. And I think that's probably true of like middle-aged interpretations of Christianity as well, that not necessarily that God won't work if it's not around, but it's much stronger if you have like lots of priests around and lots of, that kind of way. That I don't know, it feels there's a very strong sense in this chapter and the next chapter that there's a limit to the religious power of their faith.
Are you talking about the Isle of Cedars that was destroyed by the flood in the Doon?
No, in general, they say like, I'm too far here for the Sept. He says something like, I'm probably too far for the Seven to have, or to help me, or something like that. And then Victarion says, the drowned god may not hear me here, or he may not feel me here. He may not have any power here.
I get the impression that Victarion thinks that the drowned god is angrier in the waters that he's in at the moment and the area that he's in at the moment, and that when he's in the Iron Islands they can feel the god. In fact, there's that thing about, we can smell the storms, we know they're coming. There's this instinctive like, oh, we know that the storm's coming, which again, the storm, I suppose, is this manifestation of the god. But where he is, it's all very unpredictable. There's storms that happen without any warning. They don't know where they're at. These are seafaring folk who should know how to, right, we can, there are conditions which tell us that there's going to be a storm on its way. But it just seems to sneak up on them. So there is something weird going on there in terms of the...
It would tie in with the old gods as well, that you need to kind of have a tree nearby to be able to worship. I mean, this doesn't really change in Christianity a huge amount until people can learn, until the Bible was opened up for ordinary people to be able to read and worship on their own. Before that, you really did have to use your priest and church or whatever to actually have any kind of meaningful way of practicing your religion and to feel like you had like God's full protection. That's the way it was kind of, that's the way most people got that. That's not to say that it was true or anything, but that's just how they felt. Like Victarion definitely feels that he needs damp hair there to interpret the absence or the mood of the drowned god. And it feels like this with Barristan. And it made me think back to Cat chapters where she felt isolated in the north, potentially, because she was that bit more removed from her faith, her southern faith. But it was just something that struck me here. He's very low confidence, Barristan, isn't he? He's not...
Well, this is a bit of a strange chapter. Well, first of all, just to say, we're obviously back in Marine, where, by the way, this is a city that hasn't had a king for 1,000 years.
Oh, I missed
so yeah, the thousands there again. Yeah, and first of all, I think it's pretty obvious that this is Barristan's swan song chapter, isn't it? The talk about his knights being there, where, for Daenerys, when he's not there, it's like his knights are his legacy. So this is the thing that's really important to Barristan, that, something of him continues through the training to his knight. He's creating these knights. But when I think I've always been pretty sympathetic to Barristan as a character. A really interesting character, Barristan the Bold, all these adventures, a very well recognized, like a famous knight in the Seven Kingdoms. And this reread this time just made me completely change my mind on Barristan. I think he's weak, not because of his age, But remember what Brown Ben Plum said about there are old sellswords and bold sellswords, but no old, bold sellswords. And I know that we're talking about sellswords there, and Barristan's not a sellsword, he's a knight. But
he's behaved a bit like a sellsword, though.
Well, I mean, he does. He thinks about how many kings he's failed in his career, but he kind of also gives himself a pep talk as well of like, no, it wasn't failure, it was duty, it was. But I just think, how can somebody have the kind of strapline tagline name Bold, Barristan the Bold, when he did stand outside the bedchamber and listen to the Queen being raped without saying, basically he did nothing.
It's only for one reason that he has the Bold title. It's just because he rescued Aerys. That's the only reason he got that title. It's really his boldest move, and it was like it is something I would love to see, because it sounds like a proper Liam Neeson, Barristan taken 4 back in Duskendale. It was very bold, but it's really the only. I think he knows what nobody else cares to admit, that really he lost 2 kings under his watch, and that's not counting Rhaegar's children at all. That's Grant, he was sent off to fight, so that's different, but his legacy is going to be for rescuing a king that basically ended up driving the realm into a horrific conflict. And now he wasn't to know that at the time, but at the same time, if Jaime had rescued Aerys, would he have left with Aerys, seeing the condition Aerys was in when they rescued him? Because he was already mad at that stage, right?
I think everybody wonders, what would life have been like if Aerys had died and Rhaegar took the throne? How many years of blissful, wonderful, bunnies jumping around kind of peace would we have had in the realm, and whose fault is it that didn't happen? And
I think he knows. Everybody has something in their past, right, that they got a lot of credit for, but deep down they know, I think I kind of winged that a bit, or maybe I fudged how well I actually, or how hard I actually worked on that thing. And I think he knows that his legacy is going to be a bit of fudging. It's kind of like Ned with the honor thing.
Barristan does remind me a little bit of Ned in this chapter, but again, I think Ned was a bit stupid. Looking back now on that, oh my God, Ned, and in this chapter, Barristan's very I'm not interested in all this politics and gossip and Game of Thrones stuff. It's not. And it's like that, come on, that's your job. You need to, I just stand here and listen, and I'll jump to the king's or queen's defense. And it's just, I don't know, I was just left with a taste in my mouth at the end of this chapter that actually Barristan's a bit of a lame-o.
The guy's correcting me. He actually got his name in a tourney when he was younger. Thanks,
guys.
I
thought, wasn't it, when he was knighted? I think he was knighted, and they said, Barristan the Bold.
I always assumed, though, that it was confirmed through the Duskendale stuff, right? Or do people just keep their tourney identity?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it came from way back, because he was young as well. Because that was wow, he's really bold, because he was going for it, and he was only 9 or something.
I feel like it makes Jaime's arc all the more tragic, because he does his duty to the realm and not to. It does call into question these oaths that they have to like it does call into question the oaths that the Kingsguard have to take. Kind of like the Night's Watch, like John is trying to point out, well, we're to protect the realms of men, like that's what we're doing, human beings. It kind of calls into question the Kingsguard oath, where they have to basically, it's the suggestion seems to be that your first oath is do what the king tells you. Like that's the first part of the oath or something. Like it doesn't seem like protect what the king tells you to protect kind of thing. So if you're sent to wherever to protect whoever, you've got to do that regardless of what happens to the royal family. But I don't know. It feels, I don't know if he's a spotless CV. I'm not sure about that. AJ says he's got a spotless CV. I'm not sure. I don't think he thinks that. I mean, he just wasn't there when these things happened. So for him, that's, yeah.
He's being completely set up here in this chapter to take Hisdar down on somebody else's behalf. He's just like, Barristan, come on, you know, you're not clued up at all. You would have thought after his years and years and years of experience that he'd be a little bit more savvy about, oh, hang on, I'm in a bit of a vacuum here, a really dangerous situation. I need to be very clever who I'm listening to. I mean, he's even got like weird little Missandei creeping around in the background still. Like, you know, he's talking out loud and she's coming out of the shadows going, oh, she won't leave without us, sir, and she won't be going home without us. And it's just like, what is, yeah, I'm a bit, I don't know, I just feel a little bit disappointed in Barristan in this chapter. And I just think, if this is you reflecting on your life as a way of like, you know, we're going to be saying goodbye to you soon, then, you know, toddle off, mate. Not that bothered anymore.
Yeah, AJ says it's spotless in the sense that everything everyone says of him is true. That's true, and I think that's his problem. He has always done his duty, always protected the king and queen or whoever, but at what cost? Like, what has duty cost innocent people? Interestingly, he doesn't badmouth Jaime. Like, he doesn't badmouth Kingsguard individually in his head. He thinks, oh, whenever the Kingsguards played the Game of Thrones, that's when they started to sully their cloaks and all that kind of thing. But that's kind of what he starts to do in this chapter. And I feel like because he's so disillusioned with how he has lived his life thus far, he starts to think, well, if I'm going to protect Daenerys, maybe I need to go and talk to the shave page, or, you know, I need to start maybe meddling. He starts to think, well, I think maybe it's going a bit far, but maybe it isn't. I don't think he's committing treason in this chapter. He thinks he is. And it made me wonder, because Dany hasn't got the highest opinion of Barristan in the last chapter that we saw. And it made me wonder, will Barristan definitely be killed in battle, or will Dany be forced to kill Barristan in order to make some sort of peace in Meereen? Like, will like his treason be something that, because the thing with Dany as well, she misreads prophecy very, like, a lot. And will she misread whatever Barristan is about to do, or whatever he does? I don't know. There was something about the way he was talking about treason and Hisdar. It could be that Hisdar will kill him and then she'll just feed Hisdar to Dany. We're getting told off for not leaving.
Hisdar's dead, though, isn't he? He dies in this book.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about this. I feel like Barristan has to go out at the sword of a king or queen. I feel like the thing he's always protected has to be the thing that kills him. I think what he's doing is exactly what the shave pate wants him to do, which is really silly. He should be able to see through all of this at his age, with his experience, and
the shave pate is dropping massive hints that he's the manipulator. He could even be the harpy. And he's saying things like, "Oh no, the brazen beasts are mine. They're still in my control, even though he doesn't officially control them anymore." He's firing Barristan up to I know who the poisoner is. And Barristan's like, "Really? Oh, somebody tried to kill my queen. Right, point me in the right direction of who I need to take out." And he's also saying, even though there is tentative peace at the moment, made by the sacrifices Daenerys has made by marrying Hizdahr and opening the fighting pits, all of that sort of stuff, for peace. That was the whole point that she did all of that. Yet what the shave pate is saying is, get stuck into the Yunkai before the Volantis arrive, and then we've got a fighting. Barristan is about to do exactly what the shave pate is telling him to do, really obviously, by the way, and he's going to die for it. And at this point, I don't care anymore. He's an idiot. So
you are really, Lauren and AU are not going to like this. They're telling us off in the chat. AJ said Hizdahr isn't dead. I can't remember the end of Dan's.
Yeah, he is by the end of this book, though.
I thought he did die. Yeah, he's hiding and he gets killed, right?
Sorry to spoil next week, but yeah.
Okay, so AJ says the shave pate is going to betray him and Barristan is really out of his element. He is out of his element in Meereen. I feel like Barristan is such a pure soul. It's very like Ned, okay? And I really like Barristan.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's just, but I'm surprised he's so naive given his age.
Be in that position, yeah. I feel like
Ned, I can understand why in a way, because he was never really bred for the position that he was in, and he just he didn't have that amount of experience that Barristan had. So yeah.
AJ, our encyclopedia, said it's his bodyguard who dies. Hizdahr's bodyguard.
Is it?
I can't remember. We'll find out next. Well, we'll find out in 2 weeks. So yeah, okay. I'm not sure how to feel about this shave pate. I'm not sure. Not sure. I am. So, how do you think Barristan is going to leave? How do you think he's going to shuffle off this mortal? Do you think he's going to be killed in battle?
Hopefully, it will be in battle, and then he can have some sort of fitting end. It gives his existence meaning. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I hope it's something. I hope it's something heroic or honorable in some way. I hope it isn't a horrible. Yeah. AU says he does have chapters in Winds and he is committed to his oath, a contradiction to Jaime. Yeah. But Jaime points out that there's contradictions built into the oath. That's Jaime's problem.
Yeah, they do both kind of reflect on the same thing about how, so what it is to be a knight and what the vows mean.
So here's my thing with Barristan, that I wonder, did Rhaegar come to him looking for help? Because, the theory with the tourney at Harrenhal and Rhaegar was going to, discuss how do we get rid of Aerys, basically. And Barristan said no. But appreciated what Rhaegar was trying to do, but couldn't help him. Or maybe he knew what Arthur Dane and Hightower and Went were helping with, and maybe saw that as treasonous. I don't know. I feel like Barristan, unfortunately, is going like the way Jon is. They suffer because of the oath. That's what happens. I feel like that's. I'm not sure. AJ says, I think the kids that the shave pate keeps threatening to kill are going to play a role. It might drive a wedge between Barristan and shave pate. It is mentioned in pretty much. It has been mentioned in most of Dany's POVs. and now in Barristan's first POV, these hostages that they have.
Yeah, that they're fond of them, and yeah.
But yeah, Missandei was a bit creepy. Is it okay if we're hard on Missandei? Because she's creepy. We love Sir Grandfather really, but yeah, maybe it's time for him to move to Florida. AU, do you have room for him down there? All right, so then we're on to the Iron Suitor.
Yeah,
for this one. I think this is my favorite chapter this week. Because there's just there's so many interesting things going on.
Well, let's just go back to what Sonny Frank was asking at the beginning, which was about, let me see if I can find it. It was about...
Wait, now maybe I can find it quickly. Okay, so yeah, or she asks, where is my, or here's my question for the end of the stream. Did Moqorro say that he saw Victarion kill his star? That is when he says that wench is not the first widow that Victarion makes. Well, Sonny, it depends on... it depends. Oh yeah, you're right. I keep thinking that AU is in Florida. He's not in Florida. But you are from Florida, is that right, AU? Am I right? Am I mixing you up with Sonny, maybe? Anyway, so here's the question. So the theory with this chapter is that Victarion dies in this chapter. And we have a switch over to an omniscient narrator in this chapter, and then it goes back. And so Victarion is hit with a couple of different prophecies, visions, whatever you call it, whatever you want to call it, via Moqorro or himself, whatever. So I don't know. I mean, he could kill his Zara, I guess, right?
Yes. Sorry, I was distracted by Marwyn then for a second.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I missed that completely.
So Sonny wants to know, does Victarion have a vision of killing his Dar? And that's why he says at the end of this chapter that it wouldn't be the first widow. Wouldn't be the first time he made somebody a widow, because he's going to kill his Dar. And he's already seen it, kind of.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So I remember him mentioning that at the end of the chapter. I don't know. I don't know. If Moqorro's seen this in the flames? Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I didn't pick up on that. But there's all sorts going on. There's all sorts of weird, fantastical crap going on in this chapter. And the first thing I want to ask you is, are monkeys ravens in this chapter?
Yeah, it certainly seems like it, doesn't it? They are infesting the ship, and just that kind of laughing and chattering. I think the state of Victarion's mind in this chapter is the most interesting thing for me. Just,
are the monkeys even there? That's what I was like. Is he imagining these things? Because the way he talks about them, it's like they're multiplying like rats, which is impossible, right? At the end, when Moqorro's doing his like magical shit, they like seem to all at once lose their minds and basically commit suicide.
Yeah.
Which I guess might happen if they've been driven mad through skin changing or something. But it just seems like, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't. If anyone is skin changing them, they don't necessarily need to be multiplying like rats the way they are. I'm not sure. I think the monkeys are supposed to represent us readers laughing at Victarion. Yeah, that's interesting because he hates the monkeys. Everybody else loves them. Maybe Victarion is losing his mind as well, because that's the big thing, right? He doesn't want to be laughed at.
So the question here, this is actually more of a question from Stuart, who was also overhearing me listening to the chapter earlier on. Is Victarion right to be suspicious of the Meisters, or is the dusky woman exerting some kind of influence on him to make him go crazy and paranoid?
Both.
So is he right to? So who's to blame here for Victarion's state of mind? Is it the Meister? Who? Well, it's somebody through Euron, I think. So who is? I guess it could be both of them. It could be.
First of all, I think all three. So the Dusky Woman, Moquoro, and the Maester, they all have elements of Mirri Maz Duur in them, right? So the Maester is raped by all the men. So like there's every reason that he could be mistreating Victarion's wound in the same way that Mirri Maz Duur does with Drogo, right? Kind of a vengeance thing. Oh, you're not doing anything to stop me being raped. I think that's it's a very strange interaction they have about it. It's almost like, I don't know, it's a very strange interaction. Like Victarion says, oh, well, all you need is a dagger. Which maybe is how he dealt with Euron, potentially. But then you have the Dusky Woman like cryptically hissing, which also kind of reminds me of Mirri Maz Duur as well, not being straight with their, like not saying what she means, like just kind of everything's open to interpretation. And then you have Moquoro performing some sort of fire blood magic on him.
Very similar to what happened.
Very similar to Mirri Maz Duur. Very, very similar. So it's
wild laughter, singing, wailing. So basically blood magic is taking place.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. AJ says the monkeys are laughing like the readers are laughing because his whole situation is ridiculous. He's being manipulated by everyone, but he's so stupid that he can't see it. I mean, I don't know. He's mad. He's really mad. Like, we know Aeron now at this stage. We've had a few chapters out of him in Feast, and the one thing you'll say about Aeron is he's insane. He's a complete fundamentalist. He's definitely traumatized. All that kind of thing, right? And Victarion looks up to Aeron so much in this chapter that I think, AJ, you're probably right. That is probably a sign of stupidity for sure. That the way he looks up to Damphair, almost unquestioningly, it's very odd. And also the fact that he thinks that, like, he's got all of these ships. He got a maester from Euron. He got this dusky woman who's probably a spy. And yet he thinks he can pull the wool out. Like, of course Euron knows what he's going to try and do with Dany. Of course. Like, of course he's going to try and take Dany. That's what Euron wants for some reason. I don't know why Euron wants that, but that's what Euron wants, right? Sunny says, and similar to what happened where Dany gave birth in the tent. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like this smoking, whatever, like Mirri Maz Duur did to the baby, kind of created this unnatural dragon-like thing, although that's not unusual for Targaryens, I suppose. The best line in the chapter, according to AJ, is from Moquoro, where he says, I've seen you in my night fires, Victarion Greyjoy. You come striding through the fire stern, flame stern and fierce, your great axe dripping with blood, blind to the tentacles that grasp you at wrist and neck and ankle, the black strings that make you dance. It's so obvious at this point. Lol. Yeah, I mean, there are theories out there that this isn't just what Euron is doing right now, that Victarion was also raped and abused by Euron. that he's repressing it so much that it's kind of, I don't know, but that's what it is. There's definitely a lot of, like, if you wanted to really go down a rabbit hole of tinfoil, there's a lot in this chapter that suggests Euron could somehow skin change a kraken or something. It's not just him being referred to as a kraken. There seems to be like he's actually going to embody a kraken, but it's probably symbolic. Although I would like to see krakens. So AJ says, so both Euron is pulling his strings and now Moqorro is too, and Victarion is thinking, nah, I'm too strong for that, mate. Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny is, for some strange reason, Roy Dotrice reads Victarion's voice in like a very slight Australian accent. And he kind of makes him sound just a bit like a sort of surfer dude. So that, like, nah, mate, you know, you can just, yeah, he's being very silly. He's being very silly and completely manipulated.
So yeah. What's going to happen with this flaming arm, this smoking arm? What will be the narrative purpose?
Because
it's very strong.
If he died, then that suggests that he's been resurrected by Moqorro.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole fist thing is very sort of like fiery fist. It's very, you are now an agent of R'hllor. You know, you are now one of it's. What did they call them? It was like the equivalent of the sort of militia, faith militant, or whatever they're called. The equivalent of that in Volantis, with that massive red temple. And they had, I think they called them, weren't they called the Fiery Hand? Like the sort of,
I think so.
The military wing of the religion.
Yeah.
So he's just, it could just be that, you know, I've made you a disciple of R'hllor, and we'll suddenly see a change in faith from Victarion. Or it could be just a really, I've always thought it's one of those really cartoon kind of like, yay, now I've got a fiery fist. You know, Victarion, he's just, because he's just brawn, isn't he? He's just, you know, no brains, just brawn. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like he's going to have to use it to do something. He's going to have to take out someone more than just, you know, choking out a maester and throwing him overboard. It's going to have to be something more than that. Someone significant. I hope it's someone significant, because it's one of the most in-depth magical chapters that we've gotten. It's certainly, like, for the first time, like, maybe there's a few chapters that we get from the perspective of a POV for the first time where it's really magical, like the prologue in game, and Varamyr's Sixskins chapter, and now Victarion's chapter. This is our second Victarion chapter, and we've got like so much magical stuff going on here. I'm not entirely sure about the monkeys thing. That's the thing that's thrown me, because there's so much of it here. And I'm not entirely sure if that's Euron. I feel like Euron is probably doing something with the Dusky Woman, but I'm not sure if it's also the monkeys, or the monkeys or something else. It feels like the monkeys are skin changed as a group, that Euron wouldn't be strong enough to do that. What are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing at AJ saying he's basically a sea jock. He is a sea jock. And AU, the Fiery Hand, 1,000, no more, no less. Yeah, there was 1,000 of the Fiery Hand.
So is Moqorro actually creating, in the same way that Mel tries to turn Stannis into Lightbringer? Is he trying to create like a Fiery Hand, like trying to make the prophecy come true?
Yeah,
in that sense, like he's gone that angle.
Yeah, maybe.
Victarion, that we're going to have like this fake Fiery Hand that's not going to be him at all. It'll be like John Connington or something.
Yeah.
Like it won't be him or Jamie.
Jamie,
you know, there'd be loads of people that could be the fiery hand.
There could be a few candidates there, definitely.
Yeah. Victarion the Iron Fist. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, I feel like with Victarion as well, there's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of bravado with him for sure, but he's an interesting character because we don't really have too many people like him. It reminds me of early Theon. Very early Theon. And he's such a like devout Iron Islander, like when it comes to the Drown God. So it'll be interesting now that if he's going over to R'hllor. Here's look at this guy. We've got the real Marwyn.
Hello. He's had a bath today, so he smells quite nice.
Oh, he looks lovely. AJ says, how huge is Maquaro? He's bigger than bloody Victarion. Yeah, there's a weird description of Maquaro as well. That he's really dark, but that he looks like he's been burnt. It's not just that his race. There's something else going on with Maquaro.
Well, he's got the scar on his face, the flame scar on his face as well, hasn't he? Yeah.
Marwyn is very handsome. Yes, he is. Not the Maester probably, but yes. Marwyn is the cutest of all the Maesters. He's got glass candles as well. I wonder, do they do glass candle chew toys? That would be perfect. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else for this.
No, there's the pounding headaches, the mounting sense of it. Somebody's driving him crazy. I don't just think that it was because Victarion's a bit stupid in the first place. I don't think he's the brightest Greyjoy, but I also think that there's a deliberate campaign to make him lose his mind, orchestrated by Euron through a variety of... It could be the Maester, definitely, but certainly the Dusky Woman.
I have a question. Victarion may not be stupid. It may be... Is there any chance, right, that if he was... Say he died in the past. I have absolutely no evidence for this. This is just me speculating. If he died in the past and was whited by the Drowned God, in the similar way to Aeron, say, like Aeron, like you... There's every reason that Aeron could be a drowned white, if you like, a sea white, whatever you want to call it. Like, can you then be... If you've already been whited by... If you've already been resurrected by one god and you die again, can you be again resurrected by another god? So say the way Dondarrion comes back, Beric is brought back through fire magic all the time. Could he be brought back through ice magic?
As a white? Yeah,
could you be whited in different elements, right?
Wow, that's really being put through the ringer, isn't it?
Yeah. Because AJ said he's thick as pig shit, Catherine. I mean, maybe he is. I mean, there's a lot of evidence to suggest he is, but you also lose a part of yourself every time you're whited. So, I don't know. There's something about Victarion's chapters that are very trippy. Very, very trippy.
Yes, what is dead may never die. But comes back harder and stronger.
Yeah. Like, I wonder, will we ever see, like, Ice Beric? That would be interesting. The only explanation can be that if the R'hllor takes away pieces of your body when you're resurrected, the Drowned God takes away brain cells. Well, that certainly seems to be the case with like Patchface and Aeron. Like they're not that bright either. But
oh my God, we're completely... Where's the Christmas spirit, people? We're totally roasting Barristan, Victarion. We're just giving it some, aren't we, this week? His star.
Harder and stronger.
Yeah. I mean, Cersei's an easy target every time, but
well, you know, stick a few fairy lights on, you know, on his arm.
Harder and stronger and dumber. Yeah.
Lovely. Bit of magic. What's so Macquarie is probably doing what Mel is doing with Stannis, right? He's trying to get to Dany, but he's also trying to create, maybe fulfill some sort of prophecy that he has. He seems, these red gods are very bloody. These red priests and priestesses are very strong.
They are, and it's to the very, very beginning of this chapter, it's described as, well, everybody is saying to Victarion, look, this voyage is cursed. You know, we're having such a bad time here. We've lost half the fleet. He seems to be making dodgy decisions about breaking the fleet up and like leaving them to just fend for his tactics are not particularly. I would have thought keeping them all together would be the best thing to do, and you know, feeding them food and things like that. You know, they're going off and trying to get you know, money and the reavers, I guess, but you know, some of them stayed in the steps. They just seem to disintegrate straight away. So maybe he's not as much of a great leader as perhaps he, you know, he's more of a legend in his own mind, really, isn't he? But they're all telling him that it's a cursed voyage, which quite clearly it is. You can see the rest of this chapter. And he just keeps turning around going, stop saying that. Stop saying it's cursed. It's not. Right, I'm going to have your head, the next person who says it's cursed. Poor Victarion.
You do. Yeah, I mean, he clearly wasn't the brightest when he was in school, and you know, got teased a lot, and he had to become big and violent to compensate. I guess I don't really know what Euron's game is with sending him to Dany first. Is he just trying to? I guess I don't know what the point of that is. If you know, is he just trying to send out feelers? Is he trying to send a distraction? I don't know.
I mean, he just seems to magically appear, doesn't he, Macquarie?
Yeah.
But I can't remember the name of one of the other sea captains. Just like, oh, you know, turns up with him and says, "Look what we fished out of the water."
Yeah, the drowned god sent you a wizard.
That's very convenient. So, you know, very convenient. And also, he's huge, Macquarie. Like, he's described as absolutely like an enormous, big, beefy guy. Yet he was in the water for 10 days before they pulled him out. Yeah. I don't know, maybe there's more of a connection between the drowned god and the red god.
Maybe. The other thing that's quite interesting about this chapter, it's the last thing I have, is how Victarion is very anti-slavery. Which I thought, well, put that at the top of your Tinder profile when you're trying to get Dany. or in his case, your Cinder profile. See?
A superpowered hand.
So it was just like he doesn't think that human beings should be sold like animals. He doesn't mind treating people like slaves, but they shouldn't be sold, which I thought was quite an interesting idea. He was also like really, really put out by having to pay the gold price. Like, oh, I have to pay for my food.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. I'm so embarrassed about having to pay for it. Yeah.
Poor Victarion. Oh. But yeah, so I the poor monkeys I also feel sorry for, because whatever is driving them crazy, whatever, like if it was a skin changer that just like tried to take them over or something Macquarie did or whatever it was, like to have them all just jump into the sea. I still feel like it's in his head. I know he thinks the crew are interacting with them. I still think it might be in his head. I'm not entirely sure about the monkeys. The way they multiply, like, suggests to me that they're in his head. I don't know.
Sounds a bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, is there anything else?
No, that's it. So we've got
for Santa?
Got a break. We're ready for Santa. So when we come back, so just to remind everyone, we're back on the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a 2-week break for Christmas, and we're back on the 6th, and we've got 2 more weeks before we finish A Dance with Dragons. So the next week, which will be on the 6th, we've got Tyrion, Jon. We've got a chapter called The Discarded Knight.
Barristan.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's got to be the Spurned Suitor, which I think is the Quentin. And then we've got the Griffin Reborn,
which is Jon Con.
Mm-hmm.
The Stone Hand.
Yes.
So no, Jon 12 is a good one from memory. If memory serves me correct. Bran talks to him in that chapter, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. Or at least we can assume it's Bran. So guys, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, Christmas, New Year. I can't believe we're at the end. We're nearly at the end of dance. That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you, and thanks for listening, everybody. And have a wonderful Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays, festivities. Have a decent break and be safe. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you back here on the 6th of January.
Absolutely. And remember, don't make eye contact with the monkeys.
No. Or they'll
Christmas, everybody. Bye.
They'll multiply. Bye.